and welcome back to my channel. Today's recipe is a highly anticipated recipe, and honestly I meant to get it out to you guys so much sooner than this, but it's actually pretty involved. Today's recipe is for tiramisu ice cream. It is amazing, and if you love tiramisu, you are going to be amazed by this ice cream recipe and you're going to want to try it. A lot of my ice cream recipes are pretty simple, right? You got your cream, you got your milk, you got your sugar, added some chocolate in there or some peanut butter in there. But tiramisu as a dessert is pretty complex, and therefore so is this recipe. So it actually has multiple parts, and so I expect this video to be a little bit longer than my normal video, especially for an ice cream video. But hang with me, and again, I promise you, if you make this, you will not be disappointed. So the main parts we have, of course, we got to make finger lady cookies. That's the kind of the cookie, the moist cookie part that's in the tiramisu. We've got to have the ice cream layer. We're gonna make a coffee dip because the finger layers need to be soaked a little bit in that coffee dip, and it's gonna have a little bit of rum in there because tiramisu. And then finally we have a mascarpone swirl that is gonna go throughout the ice cream. Again, it's a little more complex, but hang with me, watch how, it's not a difficult recipe. It's actually pretty easy. There's just a lot of steps. So let's get started. We're gonna start with the Ladyfingers first, and we'll get those made and in the oven, and then we'll start moving on to the ice cream portion. The finger ladies, you're gonna need a half a cup of almond flour, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, 3 egg yolks, a quarter cup of low carb sweetener, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 3 egg whites, so just separate the eggs out, and then a quarter teaspoon of cream and tartar. You're gonna start by whisking together the half cup of almond flour and the half teaspoon of baking powder. And you just wanna whisk that together in a small bowl and then set that aside. Next, you're going to mix together really well your egg yolks and your quarter cup of low carb sweetener. For this, I'm using Lakanto monk fruit. Some people, you can use Swerve granulated sweetener, but I know for some people their erythritol bothers their stomach, and so monk fruit is a really great alternative that doesn't tend to bother most people. So you need to beat this together with a hand mixer, and you want to beat it enough to where actually the eggs start getting a little bit fluffy, even the egg yolks, and so that's going to take about 4 to 5 minutes. I don't know if we'll actually be able to see a difference, but this is the eggs and the sweetener just mixed up, less than 10 seconds. And I want to show you the difference in how it looks once it's actually been whipped up for like 4 to 5 minutes. These are the eggs whipped up for several minutes. They're a little bit lighter in color, and they have also thickened. The last thing we're going to do in this bowl before we move on is we're going to put the teaspoon of the vanilla extract in there, and then I'm just going to give it one real good mixing again and then set this to the side. The last 2 ingredients are the egg whites and the cream of tartar, and these will need to be whipped up just like the egg yolks, but you're going to basically meringue this up. So this, again, kind of like the egg yolks, it's a little bit more time intensive. It's going to take you at least 4 to 5 minutes to get this whipped up. You want it whipped up well enough that you start having those peaks form on the paddles. Egg whites have been whipped. You'll notice the soft peaks right there. And now it's time to put everything together. Now the important part of this last step is you have everything whipped up and you don't want to ruin that. So ditching the electric hand mixer, and now we need to fold everything in together. So we're going to start with the almond flour, and we're going to fold that in gently in with the egg yolk mixture and just kind of stir it around a little bit. It's going to be pretty thick. And now we're going to take this and we're going to put it in with the whipped egg whites. Now, because the finger ladies are so whippy, if you will, I'm going to pipe them onto the cookie sheet. If you don't have a piping bag, then you can just stick the mixture into a Ziploc bag and cut a hole in one of the corners. I got the bag filled up. I'm just going to cut just a small hole in the edge of it so I can pipe these onto the baking sheet. These don't have to be perfect, and here's why. Because once they're baked up, you're actually just going to kind of roughly chop them up anyway into more bite-sized pieces. So this part, it does not need to be display ready. It does not have to be perfect because the finger ladies aren't what's on display anyway. They are just a component of the ice cream. I'm gonna get these in the oven For about 8 to 10 minutes at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, you want them to just start to brown up a little bit. These are very lightweight, they're very soft and airy, so you definitely don't want to burn them. The Ladyfingers just came out of the oven, so I just want to give you a quick look to see what they look like. So they're just golden brown. Some of these over here are a little bit more done, but that should be okay. Now you need to let the Ladyfingers cool all the way down before you transfer them over to a cooling rack. You may find, even though I use parchment paper, you still may find that they were trying to stick a little bit to the parchment paper. We're not too concerned about having really pretty and beautiful Ladyfingers because they're going to be chopped up into bite-sized pieces and put into the ice cream anyway. Okay, while we're waiting on the Ladyfingers to cool off, now it's time to move on to the ice cream portion. The ice cream portion only has 4 ingredients. You have 1 cup of heavy cream, you have a half a cup of low carb sweetener, and let me hang out here for just a second. When I first started making keto ice cream, I used Swerve sweetener, and actually I use Swerve sweetener in every sweet type of baked good, cookies, cake, ice cream, and it's a wonderful sweetener. It's erythritol based and I enjoy it. However, for ice cream, because the erythritol recrystallizes as it cools off, the ice cream is getting really hard, and so no matter how much added vodka I put in there to keep it from not icing up, the ice cream, while very flavorful, was very hard to scoop out after it had been in the fridge for 24 hours. So enter into the scene allulose. Allulose is a plant-based low-carb sweetener, and it keeps ice cream perfectly scoopable even after 3 days in the freezer. So I will make sure and link this in the description box below. Allulose, to me, is, you have to have it for a good low-carb ice cream. It's a game changer. Go out and get this today. So moving on to the low-carb sweetener, you want 3/4 cup of strongly brewed coffee. I keep iced coffee made up in the fridge, so I pour this out. But if you don't have some already made up, then just make some coffee that's a little bit stronger than normal. And then you're gonna need 5 egg yolks, and that is a lot for any ice cream, really, any custard-based ice cream, but that is what this recipe is gonna call for because it is a very, very rich recipe. So I'm gonna get these divided and then we will move on to preparing the ice cream. We're gonna start by bringing the heavy cream and the low-carb sweetener up to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. If you do not have a candy thermometer, and you want this over medium-low heat. You really don't want this too hot. So if you don't have a candy thermometer, a sure sign that it's almost ready or just getting to the temperature you want is the liquid will start to steam. You don't want to get it to boiling because then that's too hot. But once you see steam rising off of the liquid, then that's a good indicator that you're at the right temperature. So once this gets heated up, so like I said, about 160 degrees Fahrenheit, then we're going to take this liquid and we are going to temper the egg yolks, and then we're going to pour it back into the pot, and then we will continue cooking until it gets back up to about 170. Again, just before boiling, let it with the steam on top, and then we're going to take it off of the burner and we're going to pour in the cold coffee. So one other thing you need to do also, and I haven't done it yet, is you need to prepare an ice bath by putting ice in one bowl, filling it with water so it's ice water, then putting another bowl on top. Okay, we have achieved the proper temperature for this sweet liquid. Now I'm going to take this, and like I said, I am just going to slowly pour this in with the egg yolks as I temper the eggs. And as long as you're whisking very vigorously and very quickly, then the eggs won't scramble, because nothing worse than scrambled eggs in your coffee or in your ice cream. That would not work. So I'm going to mix that right there, and then I'm just going to basically reverse this and pour this back into the saucepan. And like I said, I'm going to make sure this gets back up to about 170 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're going to remove this from the heat and pour in the cold brew coffee. All right, the ice cream custard mix is to the right temperature, so now I am going to pour in the 3/4 cup of strongly brewed ice cream. And now I'm going to pour this into the ice bowl, and I'm going to let it sit in the ice bowl for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to need to cover this in saran wrap, and it needs to go in the refrigerator for at least 3 hours. It can go in the fridge for up to 24 hours if you want to do this step ahead. We are down to the last two components of this tiramisu ice cream, and you can actually do these things while the ice cream is churning in the ice cream maker, but for the sake of this video and because the ice cream churner is a little bit loud, I'm gonna go ahead and do that first. So now we're gonna make the coffee dip, which we are going to pour and soak these Ladyfingers in. And then I'm also gonna make the Mascarpone Swirl that goes in. So let me show you how to make those real quick. For the coffee dip, you're gonna want 3 ounces of cold brew coffee, and it's gotta have a little rum in it because it is tiramisu. So only about 2 teaspoons of rum will go in. And then about a teaspoon, you can use regular liquid stevia, but I prefer to use the vanilla cream stevia just for that little bit of added flavor boost. And then I'm just gonna stir this up. Now, what we're gonna do with this is I've got the finger ladies out on a plate, and I'm just gonna break these up a little bit into more bite size. You know, it doesn't need to be exact, just kind of break them apart a little bit. And then we are going to soak them. We're gonna just gently pour this over it. You don't have to use all the coffee dip. You don't want them to be dripping wet. You just want them to kind of soak up this coffee dip. Okay, just kind of gently pour this over. Move them around a little bit. Make sure they all get a little bit of the coffee dip on them. That is good right there. I don't want to put any more because then they're going to get too wet. If you have any left over, then you know what? Put it in your morning coffee. It'll be really good. Now I'm going to set this aside and we're going to make the Mascarpone Swirl. The Mascarpone Swirl only has 3 ingredients, and it's going to be the mascarpone itself. I would leave this out overnight to make sure it gets up to room temperature so it's fairly soft and not too hard to work with. A little bit more rum. It's going to be another tablespoon of rum. And then for the sweetener, I'm using a 1/4 cup of allulose. Again, you can use another low-carb sweetener, but for the purpose of ice cream, I find that this one is absolutely the best. So, and all these ingredients, you're just going to put them into a bowl and get them good and mixed up, because you're going to end up spooning this into the storage container with the ice cream and the coffee dip soaked finger ladies. So just just stir it up until it is well incorporated. All 3 ingredients are well incorporated together. And as soon as I get this done, then we will churn the ice cream. It is time to churn the ice cream. It has been sitting in this fridge. Actually, it's been sitting in overnight. So I'm just gonna take this plastic wrap off, and I'm just with my whisk, I'm just gonna give it a quick stir to make sure everything's incorporated well. It is gonna go in this ice cream maker to churn for no more than 20 minutes. This is actually a smaller batch of ice cream if I was just making ice cream without all the added components to it. So it may not need the full 20 minutes that I usually need. I think the last time I made this, it was under 15. So once it goes in the churner, just kind of keep an eye on it. And when it looks like it's churned enough or it's gotten pretty solid, then you can go ahead and stop it even if it hasn't been 20 minutes. So let's get this into the ice cream maker, and then after that, it will be finally time to assemble everything into the storage container. Okay, it has been 15 minutes. I did not need the full 20. But like I said, as you're churning your ice cream, then use your judgment based on how the ice cream is looking in the ice cream maker. So that's about all of it right there. I'm gonna get it off the paddles because I don't want it all to go into the storage container at the same time, because I need to layer it with the other components. That's most of it. Maybe a little taste test. That's awesome. That's perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna bring it for a closer look because, like I said, we're gonna layer the different parts. We're gonna do a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of the mascarpone. I've heard it pronounced several different ways, and a coffee dip soaked Ladyfingers. Okay, just put a little dab of here of the ice cream. Now I'm going to take the Mascarpone Swirl and drop some of that in here. This does not need to be perfect, does not need to be pretty. All this is going to get an extra swirl together once it's all in here. And I'm going to put in some of these Ladyfingers. This is really, there's no perfect amount, just what you think you would want in here. If you could do a little bit less, you could do a little bit more. And now we're going to drop another layer of the ice cream on top, and then another layer of the Mascarpone Swirl, topped with the Ladyfingers again. Last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a knife or some type of utensil, and I'm just gonna kind of swirl this in together like this to get a little bit more of a mixture, but I don't want it completely swirled because I want to be able to see or taste all of the different elements in the ice cream when I'm eating it. All right, let's just smooth this out, and we're gonna call that good. It's gonna go into the freezer for about 3 to 6 hours. That is how you make tiramisu ice cream. All right, my ice cream needs to sit in the freezer for at least 3 hours, probably up to 6, to make sure it firms up just enough. I don't want it rock hard, but with the allulose sweetener, it should never even get rock hard anyway. One thing I do suggest is when you scoop it out into your container, then dust the top of it with some unsweetened cocoa powder, and then the official ice cream, the tiramisu ice cream, is set. All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. If you have any flavor requests for a keto ice cream, make sure you comment in the description box below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. All right, guys, I will see you on the next video.